Just about 3 or 2 minutes thereabout to 9:30, the time allocated for the National Assembly proceedings this morning, the Friday of 29th of the month of November, the year 2024. This is the National Assembly proceedings that is taking place from the National Assembly chambers in Parliament buildings, Nairobi, a broadcast that is streaming live from the chambers and is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in partnership with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. A warm welcome to you, and we are glad that you have managed to join us this morning. My name is Kamche Menza. This morning, as the members of the National Assembly sit, there are businesses, mostly private members' bills, that will be considered or that are lined up for consideration, most of them being at the second reading stage, which means a debate on them will be taking place. We shall be taking a look at some of those bills that this morning will be considered. But before that, pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 44, paragraph 2, part C, two members have statements that they will be requesting from the relevant committees with regards to the concerns raised. The Honorable Member for Narok North, Agnes Parillo, will be requesting for a statement from the Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations with regards to disappearance of a Kenyan in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as well as the Honorable for Kiambu Town, Honorable Mashua Waithaka, will also be requesting for a statement from the Committee of Lands with regards to attempted land grabbing in Tinganga Ward in Kiambu Town constituency. These are two statements that was provided for by the House Standing Order 44, paragraph 2, part C. These members will be requesting those statements, of course, from those two relevant committees with regards to the matters that they touch on. The Committee on Administration and Internal Security will this morning as well respond to two statements that were sought earlier on. These two statements include the one from Honorable Malulu Inchendi, member for Malava, with regards to alleged shooting of Miss Salome Makanda. The other statement that will be responded to this morning by the Committee on Administration and Internal Security includes a statement that was sought by the Honorable Member for Moyale, Professor Jaldesa Guyo, and this is with regards to reopening of Hilo Gold Mine in Dabel, Moyale constituency. Also this morning, a statement that was sought for response by the Honorable Member for North Hor, Honorable Ade Wario, with regards to perpetual food crisis in arid and semi-arid lands in Kenya, will this morning be responded to by the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. These are some of the businesses that, as the members convene this morning, will be transacting a request for statements as well as responses to statements that had earlier on been made. If you're just joining us, is that the House is about to commence its business. This is yet another sitting that was convened through a resolution by the House to hold this particular sitting for purposes of concluding on a number of business as well as dispensing with the various businesses of the House ahead of its adjournment for long recess next week, Thursday. So this is one of those sittings that, after the resolutions, this sitting was set. That is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Gladys Boss, already in the chambers. She will be presiding over this morning's sitting. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast that is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in partnership with Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Good morning.
Honorable members, let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interest you have committed to our charge. Amen. Sergeant at Arms, I direct that you ring the bell for 10 minutes.
Has not corrected. Remember, the prayer has been said and the chair taken, but as provided for in the House Standing Orders, number 34, is that at least 50 members should be seated in the chambers or inside the chambers. Once the prayer is said and the chair is taken, if that quorum is not present, then that would mean that the House has not corrected for it to be able to commence the House business, and that would call for that particular quorum bell that has been directed by the Deputy Speaker. And that is a bell that will be on for 10 minutes, at least for now, that we are still looking for the House to correct. What we'll be seeing is that members will be making their way into the chambers, and once that quorum is achieved, then we shall be letting you in on the proceedings over the National Assembly this morning, a sitting that is out of the norm. Normally, we see the National Assembly sitting on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursday, but today is a Friday, and this is a morning sitting. But you will recall that there was a resolution for the House to undertake these extra sittings so as to be able to achieve their purpose of concluding on a number of pending businesses. And this morning's sitting is part of those sittings that were resolved to be held. As I had indicated earlier, is that the business on the order of business for the members this morning to be transacted include majorly bills by members or individual members. You will recall that on the afternoon sitting of the 28th of November, the year 2024, members began debate on the startup bill, a bill that is originating from the Senate, Bill number 14 of 2022. It is a bill that is co-sponsored by the Honorable Member Irene Mayaka, a bill that is at its second reading stage. This means that a debate is on. This is a bill that seeks to provide a framework, one that fosters a culture of innovative thinking and entrepreneurship, also for registration of startups and the linkage of such startups with financial institutions, the private sector, research institutions, and such other institutions at the national and county level of government, provide a framework to facilitate investments in and the provision of fiscal and non-fiscal support to startups in Kenya, also provide a framework that promotes an enabling environment for the establishment, development, conduct of business, and regulation of startups, and also provide a framework for the establishment of incubation facilities at the national and county levels of government and environment that promotes the establishment of startups, as well as for the monitoring and evaluation of the legal and regulatory framework and the mechanisms put in place to encourage the development of startups. The bill also seeks to ensure that all persons, irrespective of their gender, status, or ethnicity, are afforded an equal opportunity to establish and benefit from their innovation. So debate on this particular bill already kicked off on the floor of the National Assembly yesterday in the afternoon sitting, and this morning it is a bill that will continue or will resume its debate that was interrupted yesterday in the afternoon sitting. Remember, the bills may originate from 4 sources, that is at the Parliament. While we are talking about businesses being transacted this morning, being consideration of members' bills, there are bills that may originate from parliamentary party, which are normally introduced in the name of the leader of the majority party or a leader of the minority party or their respective deputies. Also have bills that originate from the executive. These are bills that are introduced in the name of the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party or in the name of the chairperson of the relevant committee. Talking of the individual member bills, which forms part or the larger part of the business to be transacted this morning, is bills of the National Assembly introduced in the name of the member sponsoring the bill. And bills may also originate by way of a committee of the House, which is introduced in the name of the chairperson or a member designated by the committee. So as I had indicated earlier, is that most of the bills that are lined up for consideration this morning are individual member bills. So the Crops Amendment Bill, this is a bill that is originating from the National Assembly and sponsored by Honorable Kasim Tandaza Sawa, is also part of the bills that this morning the members of the National Assembly, once they are done with the startups bills, which in the order of business comes immediately after the conclusion of the business on the startups bills, will be considered. And this is a bill that seeks to amend the Crops Act to include acuity as one of the scheduled crops. This is a bill that will affect the functions of the county governments and is therefore a bill that concerns counties. So once the bill is concluded at the National Assembly, being a bill that concerns county governments, this means that the bill will be forwarded for consideration at the Senate, where the Senate will be able to consider that particular bill and propose any amendments before it comes back to the National Assembly for conclusion. A look at the details that forms part of the establishment of this bill, or the introduction of this bill, is that the principal object of the bill is to include acuity to the first schedule of the Crops Act number 16 of 2013. Acuity known at the coast as Mrangi because of its bright
let us
red
proceed.
fruits.
I'll give you a minute to sit. Honorable CEO, you can break up your committee. Okay, first order.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader, Honorable Naomi Wako, your.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Friday, November 29th, 2024, morning sitting. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statement for the year ended 30th June 2024 and the certificates therein in respect of 1. Transforming Health System for Universal Care, THS UC Project Grant IDA, credit number 5836 KE TFO A2561 TFO A2792 and CRPI P152394 Ministry of Health. Number 2, Dandia Primary Health Care PHC Support Program Ministry of Health. Number 3, Technical Assistance to enhance the capacity of the President Delivery Unit ABD grant number 550015501292 project, State Department for Internal Security and National Administration. Number 4, Kenya Electricity Modernization Project, KEMP, IDA CR number 5587 KE, State Department for Energy. Number 5, Nairobi Inclusive Sanitation Improvement Project Grant number 56001550051553 at the River Works Development Agency. Number 6, East Africa Skills for Transformation and Regional Integration Project, credit number 6334 KE, Kenya Coast National Polytechnic. Number 7, Nairobi Water and Sanitation Project, credit number CKE 113501H, Adi Water Works Development Agency. Number 8, Green Zone Development Support Project Phase 2, credit number PKE AAD 005 Kenya Forest Service. Number 9, NEMA GCF Readiness and Preparatory Support, NEMA Capacity Strengthening Program towards accessing climate finance from Green Climate Fund, credit number KEN RS003, National Environment Management Authority. Number 10, Early Action Support Project, EASP, grant number 201539790, State Department for Environment and Climate Change. Number 11, Petroleum Development Levy Fund, State Department for Energy. And number 12, Horn of Africa Gateway Development Project Grant, credit number 6768, Kenya National Highway Authority. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to lay.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable members, allow me to reorder the order paper. It was raised yesterday that there's been some bills that have been pending for the entire year. So I will reorder the paper as follows: that we now move to order number 13, and then we can come back to 7, questions and statements, and then follow up as like that. Thank you. Order number 13. Let's go to number 13. Read the order. Order number 13. Order number 13. Read.
Order number 13, the Parliamentary Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2023, second reading.
Proceed.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I do move that the Parliamentary Pensions Amendment Bill, Bill number 5 of 2023, be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, I want to start by appreciating the opportunity granted to me to move this important bill. And honorable members, you need to note that this bill is actually a bill. It touches on a member of parliament. We have an act of parliament which is taking care of our issues of pension, that's Cap 196. But you realize that this act was enacted before the new constitution. So while this parliament has taken time to harmonize a number of other acts of parliament with the new constitution, it's unfortunate we are doing this for our own act after about 13 years of the new constitution. And this shows the kind of unfairness we have been to ourselves. Honorable Speaker, this bill was actually initiated by the current governor of Taita Taveta, Honorable Mwandime, when he was a member of parliament. And you could still not see the end of the day, but we worked very closely with him then. While we had agreed, I also seconded the bill then, but God was so gracious to him that now he's the governor of Taita Taveta. So when this new parliament, the 13th parliament, was actually elected, then I took over this bill so that we were able to get it done. So the whole essence, honorable members, of this bill is first of all to harmonize our Home Act relating to pensions with the new constitution. You realize the new constitution did create a number of new institutions. One of them was the Senate, which was not there when this bill, when the current act was enacted. The other new institution, which was also created, is the SRC, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. The other institution, which was also created and has become a constitutional commission, is the Parliamentary Service Commission. You realize that before the new constitution, we also used to have what we used to call the Office of the Comptroller and the Auditor General. As a result of the new constitution, we got now the Comptroller of Budget and the Auditor General's office. So there was separation of those two offices. And it's on the basis of that then we have to do a number of amendments to this bill, to this act, so that we get it right in terms of the current constitution. So you realize in this bill, a number of clauses actually is a straightforward matter of now including the new institutions. For example, Senate was not there. So if you look at our current act, there is no mention of the Senate. No, Parliament means National Assembly, which means the Senate is left out. So one of the things we have done is to make sure that where it's written National Assembly, we write Parliament, and Parliament means both the National Assembly and the Senate. It is on the basis of that we have clauses 2, clause 3, clause 6, clause 7, clause 9, clause 11, clause 13, and clause 14. So those clauses is just a matter of replacing National Assembly with the Parliament, where Parliament is defined to mean the Senate and the National Assembly. In terms of details, if you look at clause 3 of the bill, it talks about who a child is. And the current act talks about a child being anybody below 16 years. And we know now we have a new definition of a child, where a child means anybody below 18 years. So we are now changing the age from 16 to 18, so that we align it with the new constitution. At the same time, in the definition of a child, it was picking the girl child to have a different definition, where they're talking about in case you are a girl child and you got pregnant before the age of 18, there are a number of things being mentioned there. And that is irrelevant with the current constitution. So what we have done with this bill is just to clean it up so that a child is anybody below 18 years. So long as you are 18 and you are a child of a member of parliament, then you benefit like anybody else as per the pension rules. When you go to clause 4, members of parliament, you realize that anytime you join as a new member of parliament, if you serve one term, you are entitled to gratuity at a rate of 31%. If you serve more than one term, then you are entitled to a pension. What has been happening is, and this is very common, members have been elected to this house, you come for your first term, then you lose elections. And you go out there. You go try again. By God's luck, you come back again a second term. Now, once you lose after first term, you are always paid your gratuity. Now, if you come back the second term, for you to be able to be pensionable, you are required to pay back the gratuity you are paid. And you can imagine that inconvenience. You have come back from an election, that time you have no money, you want to join now the pension because you are a second termer, but then you are expected to pay back that money so that you can now earn your pension. So this has been a major challenge to the members. So in this bill, what we are saying is, immediately you join parliament, immediately you are elected, you are given an option as a member of parliament, either to be paid gratuity or to be paid pension. So once you join year one, you'll be able to wait, because before the election, you don't qualify for pension. So automatically, term one, you are on gratuity. But in case you are elected term two, this bill now will open the door for you to choose whether you want to go gratuity or pension. Because once you choose you want to go gratuity, then there will be no need to pay back the one you had been paid. You serve another term and you'll earn your gratuity again. So you'll have earned two times your gratuity. Currently, it's automatic. When you come a second term, you have no choice but to pay back the gratuity so that you become pensionable. This one opens doors for you members so that you can make that choice. And it's going to be good so that when you come back, you are not being forced to just pay back the money. You will be able to choose. Now, when you go to clause 5, clause 5 says that once now you determine you'll be paid pensions, then that will pave the way for the necessary deductions in line with the pension rules or the SRC recommendations. Because once you are pensionable, then you also, it's a contributory scheme. You'll be contributing, and then the government will be contributing the other share. So automatically they will be able, now clause 5 says, once you choose to be pensionable, then the necessary deductions will be done. Then the other important clause is clause 8, which I was saying, it talks about you, once you decide on a gratuity, then you get your that 1%. Now, another important bit which is happening. Our current act, honorable members, talks about you can only access your pension when you are age above 45. So if you serve 2 terms, and it happens that by the time you clear your second term and you are elected out, you are voted out, you are still below 45. The truth of the matter is you'll have qualified for pension, but because you are below 45, you'll not be able to be paid your pension. So you have to wait till you hit 45. But now we have introduced a clause 10 where we are saying, in case you retire on medical grounds, where a board of medical doctors has confirmed that you cannot continue with your work on medical grounds, and at that time you are pensionable, this bill is saying if we pass it, so long as you have retired on medical grounds, and the board of medical doctors has certified to that effect, then you can be paid your dues even when you are below 45 years, so long as it's on medical grounds. That's what clause 10 talks about. So it means basically we are saying, because there are situations where you might get sick, you are pensionable, you require that money to go to the hospital, but now you are not yet 45, then but with this amendment, you'll be able to access some of your benefits so that it can also help you take care of your family. Another important clause is clause 11. Honorable members, there are cases where honorable members have been elected to this house. And before the end of year one, by bad luck, the member passes on or the member dies. What has been happening is once you die, you won't be able to pay the normal insurance, general insurance. But we are saying with this bill that in case you join this parliament and you die before the end of year one, we are proposing that, honorable members, your family should be able to be paid an equivalent of 1 year's salary. Because you will not have served for 1 year, but we are saying your family should be paid an equivalent to 1 year's salary, bearing in mind, honorable members, you will have come from an election, already you will have spent the resources. So we are saying, just as a way of trying to make sure that the family settles, because now the breadwinner has gone to be with the Lord, that now you'll be paid 1 year's equivalent of a salary. And that is important, honorable members. The other matter which is important, honorable members, is you realize currently, the current act only appreciates one thing, that only men should be elected to this house. And that's why it talks only of windows only, and doesn't talk about windowers. So if you look at the current act, it only talks about windows, which means the assumption was that no lady should be sitting in this house as an honorable member of this house. Meaning, if you are a lady, and I've seen many of them here, and like the Honorable Speaker, I know now you've qualified to be you are pensionable. The current act says, Honorable Speaker, in case of anything happening, your spouse cannot be paid anything. So we are now amending this act so that we appreciate the fact that we have honorable members in this house who are our sisters. And in case of anything happening, their spouses who are now the widowers should be treated the same way we treat the widows. And I think that's an important amendment, because the reality now with us is that ladies will continue being in this house, our sisters, and we can't discriminate in matters pension. So that in case of anything happening, then that door is open. So this particular bill, the amendment is addressing that matter. That matter, Honorable Speaker, which has been addressed by this bill, is the issue of clause 14, which talks about the issue of the management committee. Initially, we have what we call the Pension Management Committee, is one of the subcommittees of the Public Service Commission, the Parliamentary Service Commission. And that's a committee which discusses pension matters. And that's the committee then which was being chaired by my colleague, Honorable Mwandime. So this committee, in terms of composition of that committee, currently it is only membership from the National Assembly, because the Senate is not being recognized by the current act. So by this amendment, we are saying the Senate should also provide membership to this committee, so that we are both the senators sitting and the members of the National Assembly sitting there, so that the image of Parliament, which is Senate plus National Assembly, is found in that committee. And then we are saying, we're also defining what we are calling the quorum of that committee, so that in terms of quorum, we do define what it takes to have quorum, so that the committee can settle and conduct their business. So clause 14 is addressing that matter. Then clause 15 talks about a tribunal. In case there are issues to be addressed, pension issues to be addressed after you claim your pension, if you have any issue you want to appeal to, there's a creation of a tribunal. It's already currently existing. And that tribunal is currently also composed of National Assembly members. So we are opening up the tribunal so that we also have membership from the Senate. But another thing we are doing, which is important for the tribunal, if you look at the current act, it says the tribunal will be drawing their expenses, their costs. They will be drawing the money to take care of their expenses from the consolidated fund services, which means currently they have been drawing from Treasury. So now we are amending to say the expenses of the tribunal should be funded by the Parliamentary Service Commission. So we are replacing the CFC, the Consolidated Fund Service, in terms of expenses, to Parliamentary Service Commission, so that it makes it easier for the tribunal to operate, because it means anytime they are sitting, they must write to Treasury to give them authorization and the financing. But now, them being under the Parliamentary Service Commission, the implication is that anytime they want to sit, then they are just facilitated like any other committee of the Parliamentary Service Commission. That will make it easier for members to get justice out of these issues. Then clause 16 addresses the issue of audit, that the accounts of the whole fund will normally be audited. Currently it talks about Controller and Auditor General. But we know that office of the Controller and Auditor General is no longer in place. That office was replaced. We now have Auditor General. So we are saying in terms of audit, matters audit, the person who take care of that issue will be the Auditor General. And in that case then, the accounts will be audited, and members will be able to get their dues in time without any problem. So generally, honorable members, in summary and in brief, these are the issues we have brought up in this bill. You remember, it's worth noting, honorable members, this bill, we have another bill which was done by Honorable Dawu, the member for Imendi, which was a replica of this. So we have agreed that we are going to only push this one forward, because once this one is passed, then all the issues are addressed. But honorable members, as I sit down, I want to say this. I'm sure most of you have interacted with our colleagues who left this house many, many years ago. Some left 10 years ago, others left 15 years ago. And anytime you meet them and shake their hand, I'm sure some of the experience you go through is not what you would want yourself to go through when somebody will be shaking your hand 20 years to come from today. Our former colleagues, some of them are going through a very hard time. And I remember there was a commission which proposed that, if possible, the government should make available $1,000 per month to support them. That bill was being championed by my friend Honorable Waruke, but it looks like our finance committee was not able to pass it because of the budget implications. But since all of us are potential former members of parliament, I urge you, honorable members, to take this matter very serious and see how we can come up with an arrangement so that those colleagues of ours who are out there, who were in this house when there was no pension, who were in this house when the salaries were so low, who were in this house when it was service to humanity and not salary, who were in this house when allowances were not there, who were in this house when facilitation in terms of staff and all these things was not in place, that we do appreciate the service they deliver to this country. The only thing you can do is, honorable members, we see how we can revisit that matter and see how we can support them, more so for purposes of medical support. The other thing I want to say, which relates to members of parliament, honorable members, our former colleagues who are out there, some of them
point of order, Honorable Bowen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I didn't want to interrupt my good friend, Dr. Makali, but just maybe a point of information to my good friend, because he mentioned on tribunal that in his proposal and the amendment is working on is also looking at establishing a tribunal. So, and I just want to inform him, and maybe if we can elaborate, the Honorable Speaker, Article 159 of our Constitution of Kenya 2010 places all tribunals under judiciary. So I just want to understand from his amendment how is that going to work? Is it not going to be unconstitutional or conflicting?
Yes, I think that was a point of information, but we'll have an opportunity at the time when we are debating, because currently the member is just moving.
Yeah, I was just moving, Honorable Speaker, but maybe...
for your information,
Yes.
all tribunals actually, even though they come from the parent institution, it's just that they are managed under the judiciary.
Yes.
But usually the members and so on will come from the institution, parent institution, and then just put for management at the judiciary. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Honorable
You
Speaker.
proceed, but we'll have an
Yeah.
opportunity.
It's good you informed me, because you know you used to be the registrar of the High Court then. Is it the Supreme Court, Honorable Speaker? So I think you are well guided now. So what I was saying is this tribunal will just be our own tribunal for purposes of pensions. But as the Honorable Speaker says, then membership will come from here, and it will be both from the National Assembly and the Senate. But what I was saying, honorable members, is the issue of the medical. Honorable members, I was saying, we are all of us potential former members of parliament, and very soon, will be out there as a former member of parliament. And one matter which has been harassing our colleagues, which has actually been a challenge to our colleagues, is the issue of the medical cover, once you are no longer a member of parliament. So even as we legislate matters pension, it would also be very important, Honorable Speaker, it would also be very important, Honorable Speaker, that the Parliamentary Service Commission comes to the aid of former members of parliament, matters medical cover, so that we have an arrangement where, even though we are out there, you can actually pay, but there is a mechanism where, yes, a former member of parliament, you can pay to a fund from your resources, but the fund is centralized for former members of parliament, so that it becomes easier for purposes of management. That will help former members of parliament. So, Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I want to urge the honorable members to support these amendments because they are long overdue, so that as soon as possible, we'll have this becoming an act of parliament, and then members can start enjoying some of the things being proposed in this bill. So I beg to move and request the Honorable Dr. Ouda to second this bill. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Ouda. Oh, sorry, Professor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know, we come from different parts of the country, so we struggle pronouncing some names. My name is Dr. Jambo Oundo from Funyula constituency, from the land where when you throw a stone, you are likely to hit as somebody who at least has got a degree. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Before I became a member of parliament, I used to look at members of parliament with a lot of admiration, and I still do. Many of us must appreciate we become members of parliament primarily to serve the people of Kenya and to serve humanity. As we serve people of Kenya, many times we commit all our resources towards serving the people, and at the end of your term, you go home literally with nothing, or you have depleted all the assets and all the resources, all the income that you had before you joined parliament. And therefore, like any worker, you are entitled to a peaceful life upon retirement. Honorable Speaker, there has been so many studies that have been released in this country that seems to suggest that Kenyan workers are the most underpaid, or Kenyan retirees live the most deplorable life compared to other parts of the world. They do so because the pension available is so meager that are unable to meet their basics they require in life. This should never happen to a member of parliament, having put in many years to serve this country, pass very, very, very important laws, and preside over budgets. And that's why all the time, I totally agree, Dr. Makali Mulu, that it's important that we continuously make changes to the Pensions Act to ensure that members of parliament get necessary resources to enable them live a dignified life. I remember, Honorable Speaker, in the last term, Honorable Mwadime, now the governor for Taita Taveta, had a similar bill, but somehow it never went through because I think objections were raised from the National Treasury. Honorable Speaker, the amendments being proposed by our colleagues are very progressive. Progressive to the extent that they seem to address very many pertinent issues that normally affect members of parliament. Honorable Speaker, he has ably taken us through. I do not want to belabor to go through various issues. But allow me, Honorable Speaker, to address 2 or 3 issues as I second this bill. The first issue, Honorable Speaker, is Clause 13. And this Clause 13, Honorable Speaker, relates to medical cover post-retirement. Many members of parliament would probably serve and live for many years to come. And medical expenses, you never know when they will come. And when they come, they might find you are unable to meet those medical expenses. It will be a humiliation or an indictment to the National Assembly or Parliamentary Service Commission that their former member of parliament is unable to meet medical expenses. I don't know how we can coach Clause 13A in a way that runs in tandem with pension contribution. Because what Dr. McCallum is proposing, the wordings the commission may establish voluntary post-retirement medical scheme for members of parliament. May. Yet, when a member of parliament has left parliament, is at home doing their own things, is unable to meet medical bills, whom do they go to? They go back to the serving member of parliament who has to come here and organize colleagues to contribute. We need to structure it in such a way that the pension that we pay, if the RBA, Retirement Benefit Authority, can agree, in such a way that it comes a complete package. It is a pension as well as some arrangement for post-retirement medical scheme, so that we ensure our members are taken care of. Second, Honorable Speaker, is on the issue of the widow and the widower. The other day, Honorable Speaker, I was in Public Accounts Committee, and I think Treasury came to the committee. And one of the issues that I asked, how come men are never considered? How come the widowers are never considered? It's only the widow. So they told me they never contemplated that a woman would die and leave a man, that a wife will die and leave a husband. And that's why, Honorable Speaker, it's a common practice all over this country, Honorable Speaker.
What's your point of information? Honorable Wangare, what's your point of information?
Dr. Oundo, Honorable Speaker, allow me to inform Dr. Oundo that they did not consider that a woman would die. I think what the law never considered is that a woman would be the member of parliament and leave a widower. That is what they had never considered. Just a point of information. Things have changed.
I agree completely. Things have changed. And us men are endangered species, and we keep living knowing that. Honorable Speaker, also natural, and we need to be very realistic. If you ask these ladies, when they fill their next of kin forms, 90% of ladies in this country will either fill their children or their mothers, but not their husbands. It is a common practice. So, Honorable Speaker, this is progressive. Those honorable ladies who are here and members of parliament, please declare your husbands so that they become recognized and known widowers. In the event God takes your life and you are still serving, or you are serving, allow your man, your husband, to enjoy the pension, because whether you like it or not, that man has supported you in your political journey. That man supported you in one way or another. Even if he remarries or many other wives, it's none of your business. Let them enjoy the pension. Honorable Speaker, the other progressive part that we also need to look at is the issue of children. Yes, the Constitution provides for children is enabled below the age of 18, regardless whether it's a boy or a girl. But, Honorable Speaker, we must make some accommodation. How that is going to be done, the legal minds can assist us. Many of the children nowadays stay in a homestead because of college and the rest, because of going to university, almost to the age of 23, 20-something. So if they're excluded from any benefits of this nature, then, Honorable Speaker, we make it difficult, we make life difficult for them. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, to be honest, former members of parliament go through a lot. That's a fact. You walk around, especially those who do not have any profession to fall back once you leave, they live a miserable life. You find them hovering around here, looking for a cup of tea, looking for something like this. A member of parliament is a honorable member of this society. Society must agree to treat them in some way with respect and take care of them at the end of their service. This habit of bashing members of parliament, being the easiest punching bag, we should ask members of society to stop this habit. If you don't want members of parliament, then why do you establish parliament? Why do you want them to pass laws? Why do you then elect them? If you don't want them, instead of bashing them every day, even when you see a member of parliament buying even a good shoe, you say, sasa ya anakula pesa yetu ya CDF. We need to get this mentality from the Kenyans, because members of parliament are our own sons and daughters, are our own husbands and wives, are our own girlfriends, are our own boyfriends, are our own mpango akandos, whatever you call it, and they support quite a lot, especially the men. They support quite a lot in this society. We must continuously support the members of parliament to deliver on their service.
What's your point of order?
And even when they end, their term ends.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 91 on accuracy of statements. Is it in order for the Honorable Dr. Oundo to claim that members of parliament have mpango ya kando when they know, and he has in fact contradicted himself. He has said members of parliament are very honorable people. Members of parliament cannot have mpango ya kando. You know, the Marriage Act that we passed in this house allows you to get married to more than one wife, like Akuku Denja, who had 97. So you don't need to have a mpango ya kando when the law allows you to marry as many wives as you want. So, and because we are an honorable house, Madam Speaker, we cannot have mpango ya kando. It is not possible. These members cannot even fathom that such a situation can occur, Mr. Speaker. So the Honorable Oundo, Madam Speaker, is out of order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mpango ya kando is not even an English word.
You're properly informed.
Yes, I'm properly informed, Honorable Speaker, but we must allow society to progress. And society lives in very many ways. With those, Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I second the bill by Honorable, our colleague. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, allow me to propose the question that the Parliamentary Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2023, be read a second time. Majority Leader, you want to contribute?
Yes, Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. And allow me, Honorable Speaker, first to thank the Honorable Makali Mulu on moving this bill. And also, in absentia, to also thank the governor for Taita Taveta, the Honorable Mwadime, who was the original sponsor of this bill in the last parliament. And it is good that Honorable Makali Mulu, and also for your indulgence, Honorable Speaker, allowing us to move to order number 13 so that we don't lose this bill again. And it's a very important bill, Honorable Speaker. And I don't want to belabor what has already been said, but just to point out a few things. I was worried when I heard the Honorable Makali Mulu talk about contributions by government for a year to take care of former members of parliament on their medical expenses. And I was wondering where he found that in the bill, but he just informed me it was just something he was saying that we should add on. And maybe I thought I should start from there. One, Honorable Speaker, just to inform the House that part of, without anticipating debate, Honorable Speaker, with your indulgence, part of the laws that are before this House due for second reading is a tax procedures bill that has a provision that is making post-retirement medical contributions of up to 20,000 shillings, down from 10,000 shillings, tax deductible. That means when you are serving as a member of parliament, or any Kenyan who is in employment today, if you want to contribute to your post-retirement medical scheme, you are allowed to contribute up to 20,000 shillings per month. That's a total of 240,000 shillings a year, tax-free, without being taxed. And it becomes a tax-deductible expense. Therefore, that is to encourage us that when we are in active service, let us contribute to post-retirement medical schemes, because they will come in handy. We do not need to ever go back to public coffers to pay for people who are in retirement. And I know Honorable Makali Mulu, being in the same profession with me, is getting it from the private sector, although he worked in the public sector, that in the private sector there are many companies that pay for their staff a post-retirement medical cover for at least a year for you to get naturalized to the world out there. But it's different for us as public officers because this money will have to be paid by taxpayers, and therefore I just want to say I would not have agreed to that if it were in the bill, but when I perused through the bill, I discovered it's not there. And it's good to make that clear so that people out there do not misconstrue the intentions of this bill. Because when the public listens to anything they hear parliamentary, especially now when you talk about parliamentary pension scheme, they imagine it is more money that you are contributing, or members of parliament are getting more money. I was just checking my last pay slip, Honorable Speaker, and discovered every single month I contribute 59,328.50 cents to the parliamentary pension scheme. And this is money that is deducted from my salary over and above the NSSF contributions. Because again, there's a misconception that we pass laws here that don't affect us. But we pass laws that also affect us because we know better. We know beyond the term of active service, you will need it to be taken care of, Honorable Speaker. Today, millions of our elderly people above the age of 65 are under cash transfer programs, including former members of parliament. And the Honorable Undo has said, there are those that we see around here. But there are many others who are benefiting from the 2,500 shillings of the cash transfer program. But if they had a good pension scheme, they don't need to go back to public coffers to get cash transfer programs. And that is the essence even of NSSF, enhancing contributions. Because why we are having a society where everybody is dependent on public coffers is because you worked for 30 years contributing 200 shillings a month. At the end of your 30 years of service, you have only saved 144,000 shillings. If you are given that money at the end of your term, active service, at the age of 60 or 55, within a few months, 144,000, you have wiped it out, or you are getting pension of about 2,000-3,000 shillings that cannot even take care of your medical expenses. Therefore, just for the record, Honorable Speaker, that this bill is coming at a very good time. And two, to tell the public, especially our fourth estate, because you will see that what they will report tomorrow in newspapers, and MPs increase their pensions, MPs increase their pay. This is money we are contributing from what we are already being paid. Two, Honorable Speaker, this bill aligns, as the mover said, with the 2010 Constitution, especially in roping in the Senate, those issues you've heard about widows and widowers. I don't know whether it is the law that never envisaged that there will be widowers, or never envisaged members of parliament being female. I don't know whether it also envisaged whether there will be members of parliament who will be single ladies who are not married, or who have divorced or separated from their husbands. And it's also good to encourage them, such men and women who have divorced or separated from their husbands, to designate somebody. And I am not naming names, but I am sure there is somebody who is listening to me. You can designate even a colleague to take care of your children when you are not there. But also to encourage all of us to continue contributing. Honorable Speaker, the mover also did touch on the question of this making the pension, our pension scheme, elective after you serve your first term. And it's good for those of us who are serving our first term to know you get your gratuity at the end of 5 years. If you do not make it to come back for a second term, that is all you get, and you don't benefit from a pension. If you ever come back, as a mover said, you can elect to contribute the gratuity that you are paid back and continue saving for your pension, so that after your second term, you continue to benefit from pension. This gratuity is very enticing, Honorable Speaker, but those who have left this house will tell you, within a few months, because you choose to continue living the way you are living as a member of parliament, within a few weeks, it is gone. And those members are left very desolate. Now we have an opportunity, and I would encourage even those who lose elections, please don't take up your gratuity if you intend to come back. Keep it with the pension scheme, and I liked something that the Honorable Chepkonga has shared with me here, that probably, and I would encourage the move of this motion, this bill, we need to move this pension, the parliamentary pension scheme, we move an amendment to keep it in Parliament, so that the administration of the parliamentary pension scheme is administered in Parliament by the Parliamentary Service Commission. And Honorable Chepkonga is a former commissioner of the Parliamentary Service Commission. He can guide, and I would encourage him to bring amendments to make sure that this pension scheme is administered by the Parliamentary Service Commission, because they will relate better to the struggles and the needs of members of Parliament than those in the National Treasury. When you live and you are old and elderly, you find your children now are the ones in the National Treasury. Honorable Kwenya, they will not care who you are. Some will be your grandchildren. They will just be asking this old mzee, and they don't know how much you struggle to improve the lot of the people of Kinangop and Kenyans at large, including them. But members of Parliament who will be in this House serving in the Parliamentary Service Commission will be able to relate better with the struggles of a member of Parliament. I therefore encourage the Honorable Chepkonga to liaise with the Honorable Makali Mulu to have the administration of this pension being administered by the Parliamentary Service Commission, not the executive in the National Treasury. Because you will see the kind of distaste that even those in the executive have for former members of Parliament. And those who pursue their pensions with the National Treasury will bear me witness as those who are former members of Parliament. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, for young parliamentarians, increasingly, both in this House and in the other House in the Senate, younger members of Parliament are being elected. The Honorable Toto, I think, was elected at 20-something, 24. Meaning even if she served for 3 terms, she will still be below 45 years. But she would be eligible to pension, and after 3 terms, she would have to wait for another 6 years to access her pension. Now, we are creating a provision where the Honorable Toto, after serving her 3 terms, can still access her pension below the age of 45, Honorable Speaker, which is a good thing because, as Honorable Makali Mulu said, you may fall ill or something may happen. You may even be faced with an accident that incapacitates you and you are not able to work, but you have pension that is being kept somewhere by an administrator of a pension scheme, and you cannot access it until you get to the age of 45. You may even die before getting to 45, and you leave your money being enjoyed by others, Honorable Speaker. And it's good, Honorable Speaker, to remind all of us, in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, and I know many members of Parliament are usually threatened by, especially around this time, you'll be told, and allow me to say it in Swahili, utatupata 2027. Utaenda nyumbani 2027. Yet you go home every day. I don't know if there's a member of Parliament who doesn't go home every day. You go home every day. So nobody should threaten you that you will go home, because you go to your home. The question you should ask yourself when you are here, the day you are not serving as a member of Parliament, how shall things be for you? So that you don't feel threatened by anybody, threatening you that you will go home. You will go home and continue living your life as you lived when you are a member of Parliament. Take care of yourselves, take care of your pension, contribute even to NSSF if you can contribute more. You can elect to contribute more, because that is what will take care of you when you are home and you are not working. Because inevitably, you are growing old. A time will come when you even choose to retire. You don't have to be to go home because somebody threatened you or somebody decided you are no longer useful. You could also choose to retire. And when you choose, it is what you contributed to your pension that will take care of you, Honorable Speaker, beyond your active life. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support this bill, but to point out, for purposes of the media and those who propagate lies against this House, the parliamentary pension scheme is a contributory pension scheme where members of Parliament contribute their money from their salaries. And like every other employee who is in a contributory pension scheme does, so do we. So nobody should start peddling rumors and propaganda out there that what you are doing is giving yourselves more money. There is not a single shilling from public coffers that is this bill, and Honorable Makali Mulu sits in the Budget and Appropriations Committee. He will tell you that this bill, when it was scrutinized for money bill effect, there is not a penny or a cent or a shilling of public coffers that will come from the public coffers to support this scheme. And indeed, that's why I support even the idea of having its administration in Parliament and not in the executive, so that we take care of ourselves in old age and beyond our life in active service to the nation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to support.
The Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Let me also start by congratulating Honorable Makali Mulu and the governor of Taita Taveta now. I think when we talk of pension, perhaps I understand it better than most. One, because of age. Two, because of my past experience in government. Madam Speaker, I also want to repeat that having looked at this bill, it is not more money for MPs. This bill is basically doing two things. It is harmonizing the pension scheme that is existing with the Constitution. That's actually the basic thing. And also linking it with the social protection policy of this government. And that is all. There's no more money that will come from anywhere in this. Madam Speakers have said, this bill is actually basically about the Constitution. One, our current Constitution as the Bill of Rights. And a big part of the Bill of Rights is actually social protection. And the whole world, no country can grow and develop if it does not have a strong social protection program. And it is not only members of man, all vulnerable people need social protection. And all people who retire need social protection. Members of Parliament are actually a particular group. Madam Speaker, I've taken time to look at the lives of members of Parliament, politicians in general, at the time when they get in and at the time when they get out. Over 90% of them are socioeconomically worse off when they are leaving Parliament, when they have left Parliament, than when they came in. Madam Speaker, the process of getting in Parliament itself is expensive. But even more expensive is actually the process of maintaining that seat. The social responsibilities that goes with it, we all know it. The Arambes, the funerals, all the social responsibility. Madam Speaker, there is no person who is actually wealthy enough, if they go into Parliament, who cannot at the end of it actually be poor. Extremely rich, wealthy people have been in politics, and when they end, they're actually poor. We look at our colleagues who have been there and have retired, and Madam Speaker, most of them, over 90%, are not doing well. And these are people who are either professionals, be very serious and successful business people, or they were people in academics or in government who are doing well. What is it that makes them actually be unable to manage themselves after they leave this? It is the process of leadership as it is in the country today. So this bill actually aligns our pension scheme with the Constitution, so that members of parliament get the protection that is required. In social protection, I was in the ministry dealing with social protection. All people, I have just been informed that when we decided on 2,500, actually it was 2,000, on Honorable Mbadi in one, when he was still here, actually made amendments to push it up to 2,500. We complained because we didn't have money. But today I'm told even members of parliament are benefiting, which means I'm likely to benefit. So that social protection in our Bill of Rights, Chapter 4, is key in what is happening here. Madam Speaker, the other element is actually in our constitution, we have created a bicameral system which has two houses of parliament, the Senate and the National Assembly. And what this bill does, Madam Speaker, is actually take care of that. One, in definitions, two, in nomenclature, so that when you say parliament, it must be sure you mean both the National Assembly and the Senate, which was not there before. So the old act didn't take care of that, and therefore that is important. And when you go into the structures, all the structures, in terms of membership of all the structures, did not also take care of the fact that there are two houses of parliament. So what this bill does is to take that into consideration, and so that membership can then include both houses of parliament. Those are the basic issues in this bill. And therefore, the definitions are now important. When you say parliament, now we know we mean two. When you say child, that I think has been talked about. When you talk of gratuity, loss of gratuity for pension, for victory after the first term, all those are actually, when you come of age, when you come of gender, Madam Speaker, all these are now just definitions that are arising from that. But when you come to gender, Madam Speaker, I think it was definitely a discrimination, actually not just against men, but against women as well. Because if the spouses of men are benefiting, why should the spouses of women benefit? I have had the opportunity to work at a time when at a district, when my wife was a district head and I was just a pediatrician, and so I was known as the husband of. Now, I also decided every time I must benefit. If spouses are going somewhere, I must go. So that was discriminatory. And then if you look at the issue of widows and widowers, again, that is discrimination. Why would it be that the spouses of members of parliament who are ladies, if they die, their spouses are not supported? Unfortunately, the truth is, men tend to die earlier than women in many cases. Even if you look at the Bible, there is a lot of support for widows. You don't read much about widowers in the Bible. But I think we now know better, and we should take care of that. So if you look at then the clauses, they actually take care of that. Death gratuity takes care of that, of the family, of all members, whether male or female. When you look at structures, clause 14 to clause 16, the pension committee, the membership must therefore change, because now we have two houses of parliament. So if the speaker is one side, the other speaker of the two houses must be there. So again, it is just structure. If you look at tribunal, again, the tribunal must take into consideration that there are two houses of parliament, so that the membership is also the same.
I thank you. You know, I have a lot of respect. I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 97, as read together with Standing Order 87. Madam Speaker, I respect the Honorable Nyikal, but seeing the interest in this bill, it affects all of us. If you see, everybody has locked in. If we were to take 10 minutes each, we will not be reached, Madam Speaker. And the reason why we have all come here is so that we can contribute and we can say something. Would I be in order, Madam Speaker, to request you to reduce our contribution time from 10 minutes to 5 minutes, so that each one of us can have an opportunity to say something with regard to this bill that affects all of us? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
In fact, I'll be proposing probably 3 minutes.
After.
Yes. Okay. 5 minutes, okay.
Well, I'll also,
I think the House
I'll also end a few minutes earlier in recognition of what my colleagues are saying. But Madam Speaker, I was just saying that it is just structures. Even if you look at the audit, it is the issue of structures. The last thing I'm saying is actually about the medical insurance scheme. This post-retirement process, actually, we must take it very seriously, because medical insurance, actually, if you go after 65, you can't get into a new medical insurance. So if we now start at this point, particularly we can link it with the current insurance, and so that post-retirement insurance for members of parliament are linked to this one. Together with that contribution, it may go a long way in helping us after we retire. With that, Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Gilgil, Martha Wangari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. I also want to support the bill and actually note that it is a surprise that we did do this sooner, because after the promulgation of the Constitution, we should have already aligned it with the Constitution. But it has come at the right time. Allow me to pick just a few issues, because the issues have been canvassed. Number one, to the mover, there is an issue you have spoken about, retirement on medical grounds. I would like to confirm that it also includes people living with disabilities, those who join with disabilities, and also those who get disabled when they are serving. I say that because if you remember Honorable Denita Gati, the former Migori women rep, we joined with her in 11th Parliament. She was well, but in 12th Parliament, she was a PWD. So this provision on on Article number 9 should also include PWDs, so that if you want to retire on medical grounds, the PWD aspect is also considered a medical ground, so that if you get the disability when you're serving, or even when you join when you're serving, you have that leeway to be considered at that point. And I also want to agree, Madam Speaker, that the issue of widows and widowers has been discriminatory, and I've said it's because, first of all, it was not ensured that women could serve as members of parliament, but it is very important that both spouses are included. It's also true, as Honorable Nikala said, that statistically, the men live shorter lives. They have a shorter lifespan, generally, than women. But it's also because men usually have a backup plan, Madam Speaker, and not many stay widowers. In fact, there are very few who stay widowers. The moment their wife dies, it doesn't take long. Within a year, and you look around, even bishops, every kind of men in this country, they won't finish a year, they'll have another wife. But we have so many widows that actually are left to watch their children until they're adults. So I think that was the relationship. But I think times have changed, and we are here, and widowers should be included as widows and given the same rights, Madam Speaker. It has also helped to reduce conflict in families, because when you write that person, when you are doing your paperwork, then all the others that have been canvassed by Honorable Chepkonga, and he said clearly, members of parliament have no mipango ya kandos, but if they happen to be there, then it will be easy to case that case out, Madam Speaker, because they will be the one on record as your spouse, and you'll save your family and save your children from embarrassment and from matters that can be avoided. Madam Speaker, there is the issue of post-retirement medical scheme, and I think we agree that after you leave parliament, normally when you're going for election, Madam Speaker, when you're just at the end, in fact, your supporters, even when they know you're going to lose, they will tell you to take a loan somewhere so that you finish this thing, and they know you're going nowhere. So when you lose, Madam Speaker, you lose, you have a loan, you have auctioneers on your door, and sometimes that's why you get members going for their gratuity, because they are desperate. So I think getting this option becomes very important on post-retirement medical scheme. You have a choice to contribute, and I think what Majority Leader has said is also very important, so that when you are able to, it is not so much to contribute 10,000, 20,000, so that at the end of your term, And all of us, Madam Speaker, I mean, the statistics that we've had is that the turnover of parliamentarians is 70%. You'll be very lucky to come back to this house. In fact, when you join this house, your chance of going home is about 70%. All of us are actually queued to go home. Only a few of us have been lucky to do 1-2 consecutive terms. So it is important that instead of begging, when you're out and begging your colleagues, trying to raise some small monies for small procedures in the hospital, you can be able to do that when you can. And this will help us a big deal, Madam Speaker, to give us an option to do that contribution. And when you are out there and you have issues of medical care, you will not have to call a Harambee, because not many people will, first of all, contribute to a member of parliament. You cannot call a Harambee in your backyard. It is not possible. You have to come to this house to beg people who understand what you're going through to contribute to you, Madam Speaker. It's the same thing when you lose, that even the traffic to your house just cuts off, Madam Speaker. So this will help us to cushion ourselves in terms of getting medical care, and it will go a long way to ensure that we are taken care of, and rightfully so, and not from the public coffers, Madam Speaker, but from own contribution that we make from our salaries, Madam Speaker. I support.
Thank you. The Honorable Kainan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a very important bill, especially for those young, first-time members of Parliament. Madam Speaker, once upon a time, a one-time member of Parliament used to be pensionable. But in the year 2000, through this bill called the Omnibus Bill, the then Attorney General wrote a bill at the wee hours of the night. And I can assure you, by the time we passed, the following morning, we all got our refunds. And the member of Parliament who was pensionable was just reduced to a member without pension. Madam Speaker, you also realize that we promulgated the current constitution in August 2010. This bill should have been one of the first bills actually to be passed, to be aligned with the constitution. What has happened? 13 years, 14 years, it's because of the fear of the unknown. Madam Speaker, when you become a member of Parliament, first of all, whether you have become a member of Parliament by design, or whether you have become a member of Parliament as a product of this test tube process, madam, you become a leader. Outside there, the community, it's just like what we were debating yesterday. You are bashed, you are criticized, you lose your professional ethics, you lose everything that you have earned over the years as a professional before you join politics. Now, what remains in this difficult world of politics, Madam Speaker, is just like the other state officers. Ask yourself, why is the member of Parliament, who is a state officer, treated differently by SRC, by Treasury, by anybody else, Madam Speaker? It's simply because members of Parliament fear the world outside there. I want to ask you, when you are first elected, the assumption is you are the most powerful. The assumption is you are the most popular. The assumption is you are the most handsome. The assumption is you are the most beautiful. The assumption is you are everything. So when you come here, you lose all those identities. You live here minus your husband. You live here minus your wife. You live here minus your health. You live here minus your wealth. You live here minus your popularity. And I can tell you, by the time you exit there, you will be a pound, you'll be a nobody. So you'll be regretting outside there and say, I wish I did this. I wish I did this. You have an opportunity. Don't fear. You are a state officer. You have the same constitutional entitlements like any other state officer pursuant to the current constitution. Why have you not passed this? I am a member of the committee, the finance committee, that will be bringing amendments. And I can assure you, we have put in place the best brains. I don't want to prejudice. We will give you the best product out of this. We are consulting the PSC, Parliamentary Service Commission. We are consulting the pension department. We are consulting the best brains within the parliamentary legal system so that we refine this bill in the next stage, including giving the member of parliament treatment that befits not only other state officers, but as an elected leader who has served one of the best institutions called the August House. When those amendments come in your share numbers and support it. Because that will secure your life after this Augusta House. I always say, if you come to this place with the assumption that you are a potential former member of parliament, you will do well. But if you come here with the assumption that you have reached and you are everything, I can tell you, the term will be 5. So all of us are potential former members. So my definition as a serving member of parliament is I am a potential former member of parliament, because the electorate tomorrow can ask you exit. So what is there for the outside? What is there for you in the outside world? Madam Speaker, we are solving some of the definitional problems. Definitional problems because the current, it's called the National Assembly Pension Act. But we have a bicameral house. It has taken us 13 years to harmonize this. Isn't it a shame? Isn't it a shame, members, that we have taken 13 years to domesticate a bill that touches on none other than one of the 3 arms of government? It is. Why have we not done it? Because we fear. But time has come. It is today. The other bit, Madam Speaker, a critical thing, and I am glad that you have alluded to this, and I want to really ask for some few more minutes, is the issue of voluntary post-retirement benefit. I don't want to mention names, and my brother here, I think he has left. Some of the best brains from Thank you. By the time they left, Madam Speaker, the academic world outside there was not willing to accept them. They have lost the flair, the popularity to be a member of parliament. What has happened? A number of them are living in abject poverty in Kibera and many other places, Madam Speaker. We need to cure that so that the member of parliament does not only enjoy respect when you are serving member of parliament, but when you exit, you continue with the same respect. That is why this voluntary post-retirement benefit is so critical to the life and the well-being. And I like the way you have put it, when you are contributing to the life and the well-being of not only the member of parliament, but to the family of the member of parliament, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that's a critical component in this particular bill. Madam Speaker, the other bill that we have cured, that we'll be attempting to cure, you have served 1 term. By the grace of God, your conscience or our conscience have asked you to exit. What, you came back, what happens? That bit must also be cured. The other bit that will be cured through this bill is you have served 2 terms, you exited, you have gone with your pension, and then you are back for the 3rd term. What happens? That lacuna will also be cured, this, so that there is either continuity or the benefit is defined. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, what I want to say is this. This bill will also be aligned with Article 127 of the Constitution, which forms the Parliamentary Service Commission, because the Parliamentary Service Commission is our trade union. So in conclusion, support this, and I can assure you, you will join the league of the other state officers. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Endebess.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Allow me to support this bill by the Honorable Makali Mulu, and also to thank the former member, the current governor for Taita Taveta, for having been the initiator of this bill, and Honorable Makali for making sure that we don't lose this bill. This is an important bill, Madam Speaker, and as you are aware, this House also passed the Parliamentary Service Commission Amendment Bill, in which one of the recommendations was that on mothers' health, we should be able to have members who are either former members of the National Assembly or the Senate having a medical cover. And this can only be actualized through ensuring that when members leave this House, they can also join the group medical cover through individual contribution, and we can be able to determine that how much each member is able to pay so that he can be able to access medical cover outside there. On the same breath, Honorable Speaker, I also want to encourage members in this House that we have a gym facility in level 24. Please utilize it for your health. It also helps you to keep physically fit and avoid going to the hospital. So and there are other facilities which are accessible within that place. Yes, a doctor's advice. You can also access reflexology there. You can access massage. There is also steam and other services. So these are all health benefits while you are here. And Honorable Speaker, looking at the bill, especially in issues to do with how pension management will be, it is stating that we shall contribute to the consolidated fund. I think now that we are thinking about bringing amendments, that section about contribution to the consolidated fund, when we go to the committee of the whole house, should be amended so that we can contribute to the pension scheme of the nation, of Parliament, so that we have a scheme that can be controlled within Parliament. Because when people have retired and they go to, and it is being managed at Treasury, they are being tossed from one office to another. And it's actually very sad, very disheartening. Because when you look at people who have retired and they are following their pension, many of them come to us as honorable members to assist them. It's because they are feeling frustrated. It takes a long time for somebody to access his pension instead of being an automatic. I think with now that all the ministries are going to be digitized, it should be automatic transition so that when somebody retires or does not get another term for Parliament and is qualified to access pension, that pension should be automatic. You have no business following from one office to another, and then you are being told that your file is in this office, your file has not been seen, it is disappeared, until you cough some money so that your file can be found. I think it's a shame and embarrassing, and it's a fraud and corruption that should be done away with. As we fight against corruption, there are little corruptions, which looks like the way you are driving in a road and you find even a matatu which has no problem. The policeman needs to be given a kickback. So these kickbacks at the National Treasury for our retirees should be able to stop. And for us to make it more easier is for us to make sure that, because parliamentary staff, their pension is being managed in Parliament through parliamentary scheme. Why should the honorable members go to Treasury for their pension? I think these are important amendments that as a committee, when we go to the committee of the whole house, we should be able to do it. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Honorable Kangogo.
Thank you, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the bill and also to congratulate my good friend, Dr. Makali, for bringing this bill. Madam Speaker, many of our former colleagues who are in this house before us, many of them, they are languishing out there and they cannot even afford to go to hospital or afford a small medical cover. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Honorable Makali Mulu and the former MP for Mwatate, the current governor of Taita, because he initiated this bill. And Madam Speaker, this bill is going to help all of us who are in this house today and our colleagues who are going to come after us. Madam Speaker, we have seen many of our former members, they sometimes come here to see us, the current members of Parliament, to help them in medical schemes here and there. And I'm happy that also part of this bill is to clean the current pension Act and also to align it with the Constitution. Madam Speaker, many a times, as such a bill, you will find that it is reported outside there. And this is something we need to caution the media and the people out there, Because sometimes a bill which touches members of parliament, you will find that the headline is tomorrow is members of parliament, they want to increase themselves billions of money in terms of pensions. We want to make it very clear, Madam Speaker, that the pension scheme and the Pension Act we are doing today, it is a contributory scheme from our own salaries, from our own payments. What we are only saying is that this scheme to be ministered or to be administered here by Parliamentary Service Commission. Because currently, as we contribute, it goes to the consolidated account or the consolidated fund. So it is not different, and there is no additional money that, the Exchequer or the Treasury is going to have to Parliament. So that is number one. Number two, Honorable Speaker, members of Parliament, our work is completely different and unique from other civil servants. You will find that a member of Parliament, as young as we have some members who are here, you are serving after 5-year term or 2 terms. Those who are at their 20s now or at their 30s, even they are going to serve for 2 terms, they will be at 40 or 30 something. And now, if they cannot be re-elected again, Madam Speaker, this bill is going to heal the situation where a member who has served 2 terms and retire at 35 or at 40 is supposed to wait up to 60 years. And that member served very well in this house. When you retire at 40, you should be able to access your pension and move on with life. So, Madam Speaker, I really want to support this and ask our colleagues that let's support this bill. Madam Speaker, also, as I wind up, we need also to look into, which is not part of this bill, we have members of Parliament here who have served 5 years, 5 terms, 4 terms, 3 terms. Madam Speaker, it should be, even the Parliamentary Service Commissioners, they should look into that issue, because you cannot have a member of Parliament who have served 5 years, coming even the 6th term, and then is paid almost the same as member of Parliament who has just come in the other day. International labor laws, salaries are always upward trajectory. It should be, Madam Speaker, that me and you came 2013, our salary should be a bit higher by a certain percentage than those who are serving the first term. So that now, it's if you check at the mainstream civil service, every year they are getting some increment. Members of Parliament who have served 5 terms should have, their salaries should be more than those of us who are serving the 2nd term or the 1st term. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to support.
Thank you. Member for Dagoretti North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to support this bill. Madam Speaker, first I want to thank the Honorable Makalu. And I know I will tell you through an experience that we saw some of our members, Madam Speaker, when we left Senate after 2013. And we were able to see how they have struggled. And sometimes, yes, a member is given gratuity. But if we had this scheme, maybe the member would have been asked, do you need the gratuity, or do we put it into your scheme, and you continue contributing even when you are outside there, especially on a health scheme. Madam Speaker, we have our former colleagues who had created a team, and that team was supporting each other to ensure they have paid money to NHIF for their medical health. And I will tell you today, now that NHIF has gone, I know our fellow members are now back to struggle on matters health. And so while we support this parliamentary pensions bill, one of the things we need to be asking ourselves that is very critical is that we have to.
What is out of order, Honorable Makau?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've just heard the honorable member say the NHIF, where former members were enjoying, is no longer there. Madam Speaker, from where I sit, the honorable member is a sympathizer of Kenya Kwanza government. Is she trying to insinuate that SHA is not working or SHIF is not working? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Elachi.
Honorable Makali, you are a commissioner, a bigger sympathizer of government because you are a commissioner of this house under the government. And this arm is an arm of government. So there's no member of parliament who is a sympathizer of another arm of government. You should understand that. But having said that, Madam Speaker, I think what Commissioner didn't understand, I think I need to rephrase it. After our colleagues and most of us left, they formed a group. They went to NHIF. They negotiated for a package of health for families, very privately, but all of them are former members of parliament. And therefore, even if SHA is there, which it is there is a process they will have to go through for them to come back to have the same package they used to have. And that's why I'm saying it is important, if indeed we had this 13 years ago, Madam Speaker, then they would not have gone through all that to create a package for members who are colleagues, who are former, to get health cover. So what am I saying? That now this will assist every member of parliament that is here. That first of all, you'll get your pension, yes. But I'll tell you the most important pension you need is health, Madam Speaker. Because we have seen, we are in a job where, Madam Speaker, everyone hates us. Sometimes I look at the young people here and you feel, because you know, Madam Speaker, you've come here, this is your third term. And I'll tell you, if our young members of parliament do not get pensions, and especially for health, even just getting employment is so difficult. And you know, in parliament, we've been very, very, I would say, very kind to ourselves, or very harsh to ourselves, Madam Speaker, that we create jobs for everyone, and we forget, and even we put a clause that says, if you have ever been a member of parliament, you cannot get that job. So now, Madam Speaker, our youths who have now come, what happens after they leave? I heard the majority leader in the morning giving an example of Toto. And you imagine, now she has started a family. What happens after? So this is one scheme I would tell the Commission, you are doing it, and we want to congratulate you and to thank you for thinking that. But I want us to go further and push through to ensure the health one works even before this. It is critical for those who will be leaving this house, because as Madam Speaker, you said, indeed people say you are coming. It is up to God to know whether you are coming. It will be a very, very small margin and very few people coming back. So as we continue even contributing, Madam Speaker, the other thing we must look at is our staff. I know they have their own health cover, but it's important to also look. It is very wrong also for staff to be in Parliamentary Service Commission, but still find themselves also with other challenges. So if indeed we are an arm of government like any other, you find that the judiciary, Madam Speaker, they take care of themselves. The executive, the CS, they take good care of themselves. We have reached a point in this 13th Parliament, Madam Speaker, I will tell you, we have refused to take care of ourselves. We have refused to appreciate we are also in a job group that you went out there and looked at. Yes, it is politics, but it's a job also you are doing for now, for 5 years, and then they will evaluate you and see whether you are coming back. Can we start taking care of ourselves from our food, from our catering? Can we have a wellness place of eating food that is of wellness, Madam Speaker? so that we stop these diseases that we are finding ourselves, diabetes, pressure, and all, just because we have refused to check the catering. Let us be honest and take care of ourselves. With those few remarks, I beg to support.
Member for Saku, Honorable Raso.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support this groundbreaking bill. Yesterday, the minority leader raised something also very important about the members of parliament, those who sit in this house and those who sit in the Senate. Honorable Speaker, the bill about pension is about the welfare of members, those who are here, those who have preceded us, and those who are likely to succeed us. Honorable Speaker, being a member of parliament is considered a prime job. You become unemployable immediately after you lose the seat. Or even if you don't lose the seat and you move away, you actually become unemployable. You are considered to be very wealthy. You are considered to have been on high salaries. That in Kenyan parlance, you call it super scale. So for that reason, you are not an ordinary citizen. And that is where all members who pass through this house must understand whether you are a fresh man or woman, or whether you are a 3-term or a 4-term member. Madam Speaker, pension or pensioners, as you retire or you lose a seat, your income is reduced. Your friends also are reduced. When we are in this house, we have very many friends that your phone is jammed. But as soon as you lose the seat, actually nobody bothers to even greet you on the street, because people know that maybe you have a bank loan, you want to ask for assistance. Even lawyers, as you approach them, because your mortgage has run out, you want the firm of lawyers that normally call you, if you approach them, they are very reluctant to even take your call, let alone assisting you pro bono, because you used to sit in this house. Madam Speaker, they say health is wealth. I think the 4 bills that we have passed in this house about the universal health care, the SHA and the SHE. One thing we as a house, we must stand on our feet to make sure that Kenya has a good health system. A good health system that will not just serve this generation, but for posterity. Today, what is making the life of Kenyans as we go around, it's not really food. People will complain about a lot of things. But the most expensive thing is healthcare. When we sit in this house, I'm sure when you scroll through your phone, the message that you are likely to get is about death in a hospital or a death in on a hospital bed. And that is how important or significant it is. No one will raise funds for a former member of parliament. That is what we must understand. And that is why this bill is really important. Finally, and most importantly, Madam Speaker, is housing of the pension scheme under the Parliamentary Service Commission. They say East-West home is best. the members who leave this house, their best house of call, or the first house of call, will be the Parliamentary Service Commission if they are really in trouble and they need help from Parliament or from their colleagues. So for that reason,
Very well said. Member for Moyale. Are you on this one? No. Honorable Sigei.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to this very important amendment bill. Madam Speaker, on the onset, I would like to thank the sponsor of this bill, Dr. Makali Muli, and those who started earlier to move in this direction. Madam Speaker, I want to support particularly the alignment of this bill to the Constitution, because for a long time, the act has been obsolete almost. And Madam Speaker, this is high time. I call this bill, Madam Speaker, a bill of life and death. It's a serious bill, Madam Speaker. When you look at the former MPs who come to our area, you look at the way they are, those who are at home, Madam Speaker, you sympathize. And this is the reason why we support this motion. I want to also support the suggestion that this bill, the insurance should be domiciled in the Parliamentary Service Commission. Madam Speaker, I want to support this motion. One of the areas which we have a problem is mainly medical cover. And Madam Speaker, I've had an experience because at one time I also retired and we had a very difficult time, but we had NHIF to support us. Madam Speaker, I know if we can have SHARE as a new medical cover, it will support this nation. Madam Speaker, I want to end by saying, while we are supporting ourselves as members of Parliament, I need to bring in the issue of national treasury. Many a times, Madam Speaker, we have a problem of supporting our teachers. The cases we have now, Madam Speaker, is the delay in processing the pensions of our teachers. I have about 20 cases. Teachers come to Nairobi here, Madam Speaker, to follow their pension. And it takes eternity for these people to get their pension. We would like also to appeal to National Treasury to reform the way they are processing the pensions for our teachers. They are suffering. And most of them are dying because they cannot get their pension. So, Madam Speaker, I want to support this motion and urge this House to really move in and support. And I want to also emphasize that we are paying for this pension as members of Parliament. And nobody out there, because I think we should also ask our people to change their minds out there, the attitude they have for this House. They take members of Parliament as enemies. They always talk negatively about members of Parliament. We would like our people to change. We are making this country a country to live in, and we are very happy, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, that we are moving this direction, and I want to support this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Kinangop.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to give my contribution to this very important bill by my colleague MP for Kitui Central. And Madam Speaker, from the word go, I want to support the same for one simple reason, that one, we are 14 years late to aligning this act with the realities that are in our constitution. And Madam Speaker, you realize that when it comes to matters to do with Parliament, it becomes very difficult for us to actually debate or even legislate, because we are perceived by the public out there as if we are legislating for our own and to benefit ourselves. And it's a cardinal rule, Madam Speaker, even as you serve food at home, being a mother like you are, Madam Speaker, you do not serve everybody else and not serve yourself, so that then that you're not perceived to be selfish. And I think it is right for this Parliament to just act right. Despite the noise, people will always make noise whether we do the right thing, whatever it is that we do, there shall be some level of resistance from the voters, and because we run offices that are very competitive. Madam Speaker, I have taken keen interest just to look at how other arms of government deal with themselves. And I can tell you for sure, one of the arms of the government that we sit in, that is the legislature, is completely bastardized and does not seem really to be seen. It is not perceived by the public out there as if there is anything good that can come out of this house. We have had members of Parliament who've sacrificially served their constituents for many years in this house. But after they have left, they're living in desolate states. They cannot take care of themselves, because by the time you leave this house, three things will have happened. You'll have lost your wealth, you'll have lost your health, you'll have lost your friends. That being the case, Mr. Speaker, we must not lose ourselves. We may lose everything else, but never lose ourselves.
But unfortunately, due to the accident that he suffered in the course of that year, in the course of that time, he was not able to move this bill. But I want to thank the Honorable Makali for indeed doing a very important job for the members of Parliament. Madam Speaker, at the outset, I would like to make it very clear that this bill is not intended to add any benefits to the member of Parliament. And those who may want to write this story should read the memorandum and of the objects and reasons for this bill. The reason for this bill, Madam Speaker, is to align the Parliamentary Pension Act, Cap 196, with the new constitution. As you know, Madam Speaker, the Parliamentary Pension Act only makes reference to the National Assembly. It does not refer to the Senate. Yet we know right now, as we speak, we have a bicameral house. So the Honorable Makali Mulu is seeking to align this bill with the 2010 Constitution. Madam Speaker, I want to speak about two very important things with regard to this bill. One, this bill is very important because it sets out in clear terms what the pension scheme would entail. As we align it to the new constitution, we are seeking to remove those areas which causes discrimination and which runs afoul to Article 27(4) of the Constitution, which says no person should be discriminated on the basis of anything. Madam Speaker, as you know, the Parliamentary Service Commission, which is our employer, runs a pension scheme for members of staff, which is domiciled within the Parliamentary Service Commission. Now, with regard to members of Parliament, the other section, the other half of the employees is run in the executive arm of government. Madam Speaker, we must sort out that anomaly. And I would like to request the Honorable Makali Mulu to come up with an amendment to domicile the members of Parliament parliamentary scheme within the Parliamentary Service Commission, so that we do not need to go to the executive to sort out our matters. All our matters should be resolved in-house here. Madam Speaker, you can imagine when we returned, you know, Madam Speaker, I was retired in 2017. So when I was going to look for my gratuity, I was told from one floor to the other. I was told, go to floor number 7 in Treasury Building. Then I was told, no, not this one here. Go and look for somebody in floor number 12. So I go to floor number 12, and I was told, no, go to floor number 9. So, and you know, we are totally frustrated at that time. You've been thrown out, you are without money, and you're hoping that you can get something. Madam Speaker, if this scheme was domiciled in Parliament, in the Parliamentary Service Commission, I would just walk over to the offices, and we know it. Why should we be sent to a place where we have not worked? I'm not a member in the executive. The second thing that we must ensure that this bill provides is the question of the post-retirement medical scheme. Madam Speaker, we have very many schemes here. We have the mortgage scheme, we have the loan scheme, we have many schemes. Why don't we have this scheme, which is beneficial to members? And we are saying it's going to be contributory. We are not asking anyone to give us money. We just want a platform to be provided for us so that we can contribute this money. When we retire, we're able to enjoy medical facilities like we were doing before. And we know of many other institutions which do that, Madam Speaker. And finally, Madam Speaker, if you can give me just 1 minute with regard to this issue. Establishment of a pension scheme in this side to be done.
I'll give you 1 minute because you're a former commissioner.
Yes.
1 minute.
You know why I'm passionate about it being established within the Parliamentary Service Commission? When I was a CEO of CAK, at that time CCK, a very small institution with 130 members, we had our own pension scheme. And what we used to do is to invest money that was not immediately payable to those people who have retired in various interest-earning securities. Madam Speaker, as we speak, this money is paid to the consolidated fund. There is no investment. My money just remains the way it is. We want it to come to the Parliamentary Service Commission so that we can have an enhanced pension scheme as a result of good policies of investing our monies in good, for instance, maybe treasury bills when it is earning more interest, so that we can get more, Madam Speaker. As it is, we continue to get very little because our money is tied in the consolidated. I want to thank you and I support.
Thank you. Honorable Sirma.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute. Madam Speaker, I have gone through these circles on pensions and being retired and coming back again. Madam Speaker, I want to pay tribute to Makalu Mulu for doing a good job. I also want to remember the first person who brought independence to this parliament. Madam Speaker, many of you do not know how much a member of parliament was. I have seen members whom we have been in this parliament. I was here for 15 years, I went out for 10 years, and I have seen all. You can be happy when you are here, but once you are out, it is a problem. I also want to talk about the people who have made those members who are outside a bit comfortable. Dr. Njuguna, the former member of Gatanga, who created FOPA with other members. I also became a member, and I'm still a member, because everybody is either a former or current, or a prospective former member. So I want to tell you, it is time you made that decision now. And it is either you do it, or you wait and see the vagaries of this world, how they will treat you. Madam Speaker, Parliamentary Service Commission, we have people of integrity who will be able to stand there. And Madam Speaker, I wish one time I should serve under that so that I am part of those people who have had the history of this house. And if we are able to get our money from ourselves and keep it and invest the way other pensions invest, even this government would not be going out of the country
to borrow. They would be borrowing from the pension schemes within Kenya. And they run the government. I can assure you, it is time that Parliament stood up for itself and members of Parliament look at themselves on the eye and say, it is our time. Because nobody has any interest with you after you leave the gates of this house. I decided not to come to this house, even to visit a friend. When I was out, I decided it is the people who have decided I'm not in Parliament. So I did not come for 10 years. But finally, I am back. So I want to tell you, if you would be having such a principle like me, because I had no other business, the pension was out of Parliament. But if it is now in Parliament, I will be coming to look for my pension here if there is a problem. So I want to say, members of Parliament, think about yourself, think about those whom you leave behind, and look at those people who have retired. And I want to say, I hope, I have not read the whole bill, but Makalu, the former members of Parliament who are languishing in poverty should be taken care of and even given a send-off because they went with nothing. I saw a person who had 15 years here. He has nothing, even a car. Madam Speaker, I beg to support.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Makueni.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to also contribute to this very important bill. And I wish to thank the Member of Parliament for Kitui Central, Dr. Makali, for bringing this. I feel privileged because I've just come and it has just come. For the first time in this Parliament, I'm very happy to talk about our welfare. Since I've been here for the last 2 years, I've never had anything or any point or any bill that was discussing our welfare. So I wish to thank Dr. Makali very much, and I actually appreciate, because the major thing here we are doing with this particular bill is sustainably manage our resources in a manner that it can take us to the next world. And I think that is a very wise idea. So I really sincerely congratulate him, and I hope we actually support this bill. I'm in particular very much impressed by the fact that we will need to move our pension to be managed by the Parliamentary Service Commission. Because that way we can actually have our independence beyond this Parliament, and it will actually ensure a smooth exit even when we are outside there and you actually need your pension. So I really want to applaud the Member of Parliament, and we really appreciate that. But this also brings us to another major question, which I think we can actually also discuss. I've had a member here saying, for us, because one of the major things is the issue of health. And we know what happens as you advance with age. And I really liked the advice that people told us to go to gym and be healthy and we eat well. That's a very good point. But one other stressor which we are getting, which I think as we reflect on this bill is also taken in consideration, is our dues. You realize nowadays you can have a headache of even mileage. It comes when it wants to come. And I wonder, isn't that stressing our members? As we look at welfare when we retire, I think the welfare when we retire depends on the welfare as we work. So I think those with the responsibilities of taking care of our welfare here, they need also to prioritize it. Because, you know, I'm a member of Parliament with 7 wards who want services. My constituency money stays and stays until everybody is giving me a headache, and you expect me to have very good retirement. I think those also who are taking our welfare here, let's not concentrate on welfare when we're out of this Parliament. We will have our welfare taken care of. Even those who are responsible here, they make sure our welfare is taken care of, because that will also determine at what state we will exit this particular house. Honorable Speaker, as we talk about this issue of pension for ourselves, which I think is very important, I think we realize we have a big problem with our pension system. And I wish we could also investigate and find out, what do we do with the issue of pension, because it's becoming a thorn in the flesh. Very many other Kenyans are dying without seeing their pension. And I wonder, what kind of punishment with this? I one time watched Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, and he shared something which I think is a concern to me. I also thought when we make a contribution, the money is kept separate. And I had government money just goes in cycles. And I realized your money can get stuck there and you die without anything. So I think this is very strategic, and I think we should actually also try to see how we can also explore for the rest of the Kenyans. See, how can this pension be managed in a manner that people benefit from it, because that, Honorable Speaker, that was the intended purpose on the pension. So with those few remarks, I support the bill. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Samburu East, Honorable Kumontare.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to support this bill. And Madam Speaker, the retirement of members of parliament is not natural. And in fact, Madam Speaker, when somebody leaves parliament, it is not just because of age. You are forced to retire. And I think it is very important, Madam Speaker, our tomorrow is being prepared today. And it is good you have this plan so that when maybe you are not in a position to do what you usually do, then you have something to support yourself and even the people who still depend on you. Madam Speaker, leaving Parliament is something I really don't know what to say, because you find young people leaving Parliament, they have served for 2 times or 3 times, and then you leave. It still means you have duties to perform. You have your lovely ones to serve. So this bill, Madam Speaker, is very important to members of Parliament. And I think the purpose of pension is to protect and serve you after you have left the service. That is the whole essence of the pension scheme. And this is your money that you only have to plan so that you'll have all the needs you have to attend after you leaving the Parliament. And Madam Speaker, it's very important, and it is a good idea to bring the pension of members of Parliament to Parliamentary Service Commission. Madam Speaker, people who are retiring, they are suffering in this thing called the Bima and all that thing. And I think it is even very important for us to look at maybe those people. Madam Speaker, teachers who have taught our children for very many years, those government officers, they are suffering, looking for their pension. And I think this house also, we have to look at that other act, because somebody leaves their service and you continue suffering for very many years. I want to challenge these people who are the ethics and anti-corruption people. They really need to know what is going on in the pension areas. Because, Madam Speaker, we are members of Parliament and even we interact with these people. Sometimes they come to you that they need money to facilitate their money to be given. That is a very bad thing, Madam Speaker. And I think when this one goes to the Parliamentary Service Commission, I think it will be a good thing. And we really want to help our people who are retiring to get their money without struggling. And I don't know why documentation takes time. Why can't they tell people to bring their documents and file so that when somebody goes or leave service, they don't struggle again. You are told to bring, I don't know which pay slips, and they have all the records. That's a thing we really need to look at, and I want to support this bill. It is very good, and it is very important for us to have that scheme so that after you leave the parliament, you don't struggle. This is the time we have to prepare our tomorrow. Thank you. I support.
Thank you, Honorable Dick Maungu.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given so that I may also be able to support and comment on this very, very progressive bill. Allow me to start by appreciating the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu for having thought it good to actually bring such an amendment on such a progressive bill. Madam Speaker, retirement is something that is there to stay, and at one point in time, we must exit. Just like in public service, people exit at the age of 60 years. But this being a unique house, Madam Speaker, people exit as early as 30 years, as early as 20-something years, depending on how long they've served and depending on how the people have found it fit. And therefore, it is important that we come up, this bill comes out to structure or to have a way in which members' welfare can be taken of, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, out here, there's a negative mentality that members of parliament are very rich, members of parliament are very greedy, members of parliament are self-seeking. Madam Speaker, you cannot think of others without even thinking about yourself. And I think it's just important to know that members of parliament are mortal just like any other person. And therefore, what affects members of the public will equally affect a member of parliament. I've been here for 2 years, Madam Speaker, but at times I meet former colleagues in the corridors here, and it is not very encouraging. These are members who served in this house maybe for 10 years, 15 years, and even 5 years, Madam Speaker. But the kind of life they live is like they never served this house, Madam Speaker. They never serve the public. And therefore, the pain and anguish that these members go through is quite horrible. And I think we stand at a point in history to rectify this anomaly, Madam Speaker. Because these members served in this house.
Pia itakuwa inatambulika kwamba
even after leaving parliament, you carry that title with you.
When it's really needy to the members of parliament. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Narok North, Honorable Pareyo.
Uangalie mambo ya maslahi. Sana hii mswada sababu inaongea mambo ya
Point, Honorable Speaker, just come out strong. This fund, the pension fund,
of this bill so that we can have this crop scheduled.
Inabidi nizungumze kwenye njia ambayo italeta utata kidogo. Tukiangalia katika kila sehemu ama kila region, watu wanufaika kwa miti ambao yatokamana kule kwao. Mfano tukiangalia kahawa, watu wa kutoka sehemu hiyo, serikali inafanya juhudi kuangalia itaweza vipi kuwasimamia na wao waweze kuendelea. Avocado katika sehemu nyingine wanaendelea vile vile. Tukiangalia Narok County Council ama Narok County Government yanufaika kutokamana na mbuga za wanyama ile ambao ziko kule Masai Mara na zile nyingine. Sisi Kilindini kunufaika na mti wetu ni bandari. Bandari haijatunufaisha vile tunavyohitaji. Tunahitaji serikali ingilie kati kuona sisi bandari tunaweza kupata manufaa kama natural resource ama mti unaomea kwa nguvu ya Mwenyezi Mungu ambao ametupatia hayo maji. Na vile vile mti huu wa mrangi uweze kutuenua kama vile sababu hata hawana kitu. Lakini leo wakifanya biashara sawasawa, akiingia hata nyumbani anapata heshima ambayo itakuwa iko sawasawa kwa sababu anajulikana, analeta mahitaji yake kusomesha watoto na kila kitu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama niunge mkono ili nipatie nafasi wenzangu pia nao waendelee kuchangia. Asante kunipa nafasi hii. Asante sana.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Diwa, are you on this one?
And thank you. Right away, I support this bill, Crop Amendment Bill number 8. It was
Tandaza.
What did I say? Tandaza.
Umesema tangaza.
Oh boy. My apology, Tandaza. But see, when people started growing this crop in 70s, and they don't need pesticides, this reduces input in farming. That means that even farmers will